Spring is on the way, and the grass steals the show at the Super Bowl. Ryobi is entering the 30-inch walk-behind mower category, and I have some pretty exciting news to share. All this and more on this episode of the Cherish Each Moment podcast. Well, spring is on the way. How do I know? I'll tell you how I don't know. It's not by looking out my window right now. We're getting a pretty significant snowstorm overnight tonight, and we're expecting anywhere from 6 to 10 inches of snow on the ground down in the valley where I live, and they're expecting a couple of feet up in the mountains. So I think this might be the last hurrah before spring. But I'll tell you how I know spring's close. I frequent the Home Depot several times a week on average. And you know me, each time I'm there, I've got to go see the lawn and garden section. And you don't even have to go into the lawn and garden section to know that spring is on the way. They've already got the mowers lined up out front, outside the store. They've got the lawn tractors. They've got the zero turns. They're out there. And they're getting snowed on right now. So that stinks. But as I was walking in, I go and I see that the snow blowers are away and the lawnmowers are out. And I just love to see that. The push mowers are on display. And as far as Home Depot is concerned, the new Ryobi 40-volt push mowers have the majority of the shelf space, in addition to being in the most prominent display area of that shelf space. I'd be interested in trying out one of those mowers to see how they match up against everything else on the market right now, especially the gas. Now, I know that Ryobi, or Ryobi, however you want to pronounce it, Ryobi is the mostly electric tools, and all of their mowers are electric, so they're kind of in their own class. But at least we can still compare against gas and see how they match up, and see how they match up against everything else on the electric market too. Of course, Toro mowers are on display, and I also saw Makita's new electric lawn mowers on the shelf. I caught a look at those in October at the Equip Expo, so it's kind of fun to see those officially on the shelves. It's always cool to see it in the store, and it happens every year now. You just like, oh yeah, I saw that at the Equip Expo. As I've been talking about before, the big conversation with these mowers and all this new equipment is around pricing. And it's not just one or two of the brands that have increased prices significantly, it's all of them. Every mower on the shelf costs more than it used to. It used to be that you'd pay $400 or $500 for a solid, good quality push mower. But if you take a look next time you're in the Home Depot or Lowe's, I'll tell you right now, you're going to see prices above $700 and even beyond $1,000 for push mowers. Now, granted, some of these are battery powered, but with the big push towards electric tools, seeing these higher prices is turning into the new normal. And you know that these companies are really betting on us consumers to just accept it. But I'm here to tell you not just my own opinion, but the opinions I'm reading in my comment sections on the videos I've been making around these products, and in the comment sections on Facebook groups that I'm a part of and other groups online that I'm a part of. The majority of people are just not having it. They're not going for it. It's too much money to justify. I talked about it in the last episode with my predictions for the year. I said sales goals for these companies are not going to meet expectations. Sales are going to go down this year, and stock prices are going to go down this year. We're already seeing it. It's unfortunate that we're in this situation, and I sincerely hope that we're experiencing the peak of all of this and are heading back down with these prices. But even if we are, I wouldn't bet on prices returning to where they were previously. It's just not going to happen. They're not going to come all the way down. Another Super Bowl has come and gone. Now, let me preface this segment here by saying I'm more of a college football fan myself, but I do watch the Super Bowl every year. This year's game was held in Glendale, Arizona, and the grass got quite a bit of attention, which is unusual. Let's start with the pregame. Here's an article from ESPN called "The Grass at Super Bowl 57 Has Been Years in the Making." It says, and I'll just read the whole article to you, that's really interesting. Glendale, Arizona. Be warned. How's that for foreshadowing? Be warned. Not the foreshadowing they were anticipating, but definitely a foreshadowing sentence. Anyways, it says, be warned. When you're watching Super Bowl 57 on Sunday, you might get the urge to take out your driver for a few swings. That's because the grass that the Philadelphia Eagles and Kansas City Chiefs will play on inside State Farm Stadium will be the same turf on which you'd play 18. The turf is Tahoma 31, and it's among the newer breeds of grass that have been developed with the funding of the United States Golf Association. Tahoma 31 is a mix of two types of Bermuda grasses and ryegrass, and it was developed at Oklahoma State University under the watchful eye of Dr. Yankee Wu. He started the process of creating Tahoma 31 in 2006, when he crossed China Bermuda grass and African Bermuda grass. A year later, the seeds were harvested and the grass was tested and studied all over the country until 2018. The result was a grass that's good enough for the Super Bowl. It's a high-quality grass that, compared to other Bermudas, has better tolerances for cold, drought, it uses 10% less water, disease, wear, and recovers better from traffic, said Cole Thompson, the director of turfgrass and environmental research at the USGA. For example, normal Bermuda grass would wear out to bare ground after the kind of foot traffic it would face in the lead up to the Super Bowl, said Brian Whitlark, an agronomist in the West region for the USGA. Tahoma 31 won't have an issue holding up to demands of being a Super Bowl field, he added. When it was time to pick a sod for the game, Ed Mangan, the NFL field director, needed grass that could withstand a week's worth of rehearsals for the pregame, halftime, and postgame shows. With that extra pressure comes extra things we need to do, said Mangan, who's working his 35th Super Bowl. We can't call timeout and say, wait, push the game back. The game is coming. It's on this day, and it's going to happen. Kickoff at 4:30 Mountain Time, like it or not, so we have to be ready. And the NFL turf gurus say they are. We believe that right now, this is one of the strongest varieties of hybrid Bermuda grass you can get, said Nick Pappas, an NFL field surface director. The Super Bowl sod was grown in Scottsdale, Arizona at West Coast Turf about 45 miles east of State Farm Stadium, Mangan said. He and his team arrived at State Farm Stadium about 4 weeks ago and ripped up the Cardinals field, which was made up of Tifway 419, which remains the gold standard of Bermuda grass since it was released in the 1960s, Whitlark said. With the help of about 30 people, more than 600 rolls of sod that were 40 feet long and 3.5 feet wide and weigh about 1,600 pounds were laid on the field tray, which can be rolled outside of the stadium to be watered, get sun and treated, and can also be rolled back inside during inclement weather, which has been crucial, Pappas said. It kind of unrolls like carpet, Mangan described, and then laser graded to ensure the turf was smooth. From there, the field was continually cared for, treated, watered, and mowed, and constantly adjusted depending on moisture, dryness, and the weather. When the USGA began working with the United States Department of Agriculture in the 1920s, their joint goal was to work on grasses for golf courses. Then around the 1950s, the USGA's focus shifted from internal research to external funding. Since 1982, the USGA has invested close to $50 million into about 800 projects. The USGA has been critical for the turf industry, Pappas said. Most of the research that the turf industry has done, especially on the sports turf side, a lot of it is drawn from what they research in golf. About $50,000 of that money goes to funding the turf grass breeding program at Oklahoma State, which began in 1986. He might be biased, but Wu is confident his creation will perform well on Sunday. We feel excited, Wu said. That's a very high standard there, so that our grass was selected for that game. We feel excited, honored. Whitlark took it one more step further. It's satisfying and gratifying, he said, to see a grass that I guarantee it will perform so well on TV. That's the end of the article. So there's a lot of confidence going into that. Like I said, this was published before the game. I found this on my Twitter timeline Sunday morning, and it caught my attention. And it's kind of fun to go back through it in hindsight and see things that were being said and how they were talking this up. And I'll preface my thoughts here in the next few things I'm going to say. It wasn't the grass that they selected. It wasn't the Tahoma 31 that was the issue. Great grass type. We'll get to the real issue here in a second. So during the game, you don't expect to hear about the grass at all. It's all about the game. It's all about the commercials. It's all about the halftime show. But the grass was brought up several times throughout the game and continued to be discussed after the game was over. We had a lot of players slipping. The Eagles players were changing their cleats from half-inch cleats to three-quarter-inch cleats. And just really interesting. And a lot of speculation going on online as to what might be happening. I followed this as much as I could throughout the game, and I've continued to listen to and read opinions from the turf management community since. And here's what I've learned and what my thoughts are. A lot of information was made available during the game. Lots of Twitter activity. Lots of people blaming the paint because the whole field is painted because it has to look good on TV. Lots of people blaming the paint. Lots of people saying it was too much of a ryegrass overseed. Lots of different speculations of what might be happening here. But as time has gone on, more of the story has become clear. And I'm a big fan of exercising patience until more of the facts come to light, regardless of the story. We are so quick to form opinions on things and believe them as fact, and then the facts actually come out later on and prove us wrong. So with that being said, we know much more today, and this is being recorded a couple weeks after the game. It's February 21st at the time of this recording. We know much more today than we did on game day and, a couple days following the game where everyone was making such a big fuss about all of this. I think there were a few lessons learned that will be applied to future Super Bowls to help mitigate what happened leading up to this year's game. So I want to make a couple of points of what I've learned, and then I want to send you over to my friend Jordan from the Lawn Tools channel. He did a really good job explaining what he learned from a groundskeeper in the industry who I believe he said had 15 Super Bowl games on his resume. You can get much more detail in his video if you're interested. I'll leave a link in the description for you guys to check that out. The first thing to understand is the environment in which this game was played and the uniqueness of the stadium in Arizona. This is one of two stadiums in the NFL where you have real turf played on in an indoor field, indoor stadium. And they do this by growing the grass in a tray that can be moved in and out at will. The grass is primarily grown and maintained outside, and then it's moved inside on game days, like the article mentioned. And honestly, I think this is a brilliant concept. I think it's fantastic. It's a great idea. They do this in Arizona and in the Las Vegas stadium where the Raiders play the new Las Vegas stadium. And I've mentioned it before on this podcast that players prefer, and the data agrees, that players are less susceptible generally to injuries on real grass rather than the artificial playing surfaces. Real grass is better on the players' joints, and it provides a better cushion to players as they move around the field during gameplay. Now, the major difference in the field in Arizona compared to the field in Las Vegas is in Arizona, the seats behind the end zone need to be moved to accommodate the field being moved in and out of the building. So once the field is moved in and the end zone seats are put back in place, that field is essentially locked in until the game is over. So remember that as I back up a bit and remind you that this is a newly installed turf, as mentioned in that article. The old field was ripped out, and the new Tahoma 31 sod was placed a month before game day. And really, if you think about it, it was placed about 3 weeks before all the events leading up to the game itself. They brought the field in on, I believe, Wednesday before the game on Sunday. So really, they had 3 weeks to have this new sod outside to establish as much of the root base as possible. And you've got this newly sodded field that's growing in this giant planter box. And, 3 to 4 weeks later, it's about to get a beating. So you've got practices, you've got rehearsals, you've got tons of foot traffic. The gameplay itself, the grass needs to be ready. So I imagine that they were pushing as much growth as possible, especially in the root zone. Lots of fertilizer, lots of water, and so on. Now, fast forward to the week of the game. The field is, I imagine, still getting watered like new sod would. And those of you that have done sod in your yards, I think most people do, it's a lot of water. You're constantly watering the lawn at least three times a day. You're just soaking it. You're trying to get those roots to take hold of the soil and get that sod established. And it takes longer than 3 weeks, really, depending on conditions, obviously, but it takes some time to really get deep roots. So 3 weeks after this sod is rolled out and installed, you've got Super Bowl crews starting to show up, and that field has to look perfect for pictures, for TV, and all the rest. You have crews installing and testing the stage for the halftime show. You have on-field rehearsals for the halftime show. They're taking team pictures, individual player pictures. The cheerleaders are practicing. The grounds crew is painting the field. The whole field is getting painted, by the way. They're not just painting the yard lines and the hash marks and the numbers for the yards and the end zones. They are painting the whole field so that it looks perfect. So all that being said, there's a lot going on that field. So like I said, I'm told the field was brought in to the building on Wednesday before the game on Sunday. So you had probably a soaking wet field that's brought in 5 days before the game, and it's sitting inside. No sunlight. It's a cooler climate because the stadium's air conditioned. And the field isn't really going to dry out because it's not baking in the sun. And when grass doesn't get sunlight, it starts looking for it, and it does that by growing upward. And when it's growing upward, it's using much less energy towards growing roots. Long story short, the grass was wet, and it didn't have a strong enough root system to tolerate all the foot traffic, especially gameplay. When grass is growing upwards, it's bringing moisture out of the ground with it, and I believe that's why the grass and the playing surface was so slick. That on top of high moisture levels in the soil, and if you've ever tried playing on wet grass, it's very slippery. The dirt is muddy, it's loose, and it's easy to experience what the players were experiencing during the game. Now, that's not to say that this was the wrong choice for turf. I don't believe that Tahoma 31 was the wrong choice for turf. In fact, I think it was a fantastic choice. However, I think the timing of the installation prior to the biggest game of the year was terrible. There are several other fields with the same grass type, both in the NFL and college, and I believe the Eagles play on Tahoma 31. And there was never an issue on any of those fields like there was during the Super Bowl game. If it were my call, I would have felt more comfortable with at least 2 to 3 months to establish the new sod leading up to the game. So that's the latest on the Super Bowl grass story. As many speculated, it wasn't the paint, it wasn't the ryegrass overseed. The turf was just wet. And my biggest hope is that this game isn't used as an example to justify a major switch over to artificial turf across the NFL. I don't think that's fair. As I've mentioned before, there's data that suggests, and there's players that advocate for having the real stuff because it's better. And I agree with that. So again, go check out the video on the Lawn Tools channel. Jordan has some pretty cool connections and has learned a lot from these people on the environments and conditions surrounding that game. As always, you can find a link to that, as well as the ESPN article that I read through, in the description area. When was the last time you sharpened your lawnmower blade? If you're not sharpening your own mower blades, you should be, and it's easier than ever with the All-American Sharpener. The All-American Sharpener is a proven new tool that helps you keep your edge with consistency and efficiency. It works with your angle grinder and holds the angle for you. This allows you to remove as little metal as possible while grinding your edge back. As many of you know, a sharp blade helps keep your lawn green and healthy. You won't have to trust others to sharpen your blades, and this simple tool will give you professional results right at home. This is an American company that cares about their products and their customers. They designed this industry-changing tool and build each unit in Haskins, Ohio. I've had the All-American Sharpener in my garage for 3 years now, and it's become one of those things that I just can't imagine not having anymore. I've used it to sharpen my own blades, as well as my friends and family's blades too. Check them out at allamericansharpener.com. So we've got some more updates in electric lawnmower land, Ryobi or Ryobi, however you want to say it. I believe the company pronounces it Ryobi, at least they were pretty adamant about it when I did some videos for them a couple years ago. Personally, I think they should just go with Ryobi because literally everyone pronounces it that way. Anyways, Ryobi has officially announced their electric 30-inch lawnmower. This is right on the heels of Toro announcing its E-Time Master, and this will be the first competitor in the homeowner space to the Time Master. This is also really interesting to me. I did get my hands on a prototype of this at the Equip Expo. Toro did not have the prototype for the E-Time Master at the Equip Expo, primarily because the Equip Expo is mainly targeted towards the pros in the industry, not for homeowners. But Ryobi is there. They have a booth, and they do have pretty much their entire lineup there. And they had this on display, kind of off to the side. They were making a big showing of their new 80-volt zero turn with the joystick controls. That's another story for another time. This one was just off to the side, and I walked by the booth, and I happened to notice it, and I was like, oh my goodness, here it comes. And now there's a page on their website, and I was at the Home Depot today, and I wanted to just see if they had it on display, and I've been to 2 Home Depots this week, and I haven't seen it yet. So it's coming, though, and we have more information here. And like I said, I did get my hands on the prototype. I shared some pictures of that at the time, and my initial thoughts so far, especially handling the prototype, it's bulky. This thing is a unit. I hope it handles well. I just remember it feeling extremely heavy. The handles are, everything about it just feels bulky. But like I said, it was a prototype. It's not the finished product. Things could change between the prototype stage and what we get coming out of the box. So I'd love to get my hands on one and try it out. We'll just have to see what happens. I'm really interested in how it compares in all categories against the Time Master, both gas and electric. They're advertising this thing to be more powerful than a 223cc gas mower. A 223cc gas mower is pretty specific because that's the engine on a Time Master. So it's a very, very subtle poke at Toro, which is kind of interesting. So I want to see how this stacks up across the board, from user experience to comfort, power, battery life, all the things. I want to know the answers. I want to know all about it. But at this point, all I can really tell you is how I felt when I got my hands on the prototype. And I can tell you the price difference too. As you might recall, there's been a lot of talk about this. Toro's E-Time Master is going to retail at $23.99 with 2 10-amp-hour batteries. Keep in mind, Toro runs a 60-volt system. This is on Ryobi's 80-volt system. So Toro's coming in at $23.99, 2 10-amp-hour batteries, 60-volt batteries. Ryobi's 30-inch mower is going to be 80 volts, and it's going to come with a single 10-amp-hour battery. So these are big batteries, by the way. These things are like small briefcases. From what I understand, the sources that I have, this is going to retail at $19.99. So it's going to be $400 cheaper than Toro's E-Time Master. So what I want to do is I want to go through the landing page just like I did with the Toro unit, and just kind of see what we can learn and understand, kind of how this compares to what else we know about Toro and how Ryobi is advertising this thing. So this is going to be part of their Whisper series. So their Whisper series marketing is primarily very quiet, and I do have the Whisper series leaf blower. It is very quiet. They're saying that it's 70% quieter than gas, and that's believable. 80-volt horsepower brushless technology delivers more power than a 233 cc gas mower. So we already have text discrepancy here. So at the top of the page it says 233 cc's, and then when you go down into the first section of text here, it says 223 cc's. So I'm willing to bet that this initial 233 cc is a typo and that they meant to put 223 because that's what the Time Master's engine is. So also have Smart Trek adaptive variable speed. That's a thing for them. We've got a couple of images here. Actually a whole gallery of images. It's very wide. You get a sense of like the square shape on the handle. It's got the traditional safety bar that comes in with the handle, and then you can kind of get a glimpse of the speed controls here. There's a picture of the battery, big battery. It's got 2 handles on it, and they're heavy too. This is a 10 amp hour battery, and then they also have an 80 volt 1440 watt hypercharger. This looks like a mini Tesla charger here to charge the battery. Then we've got an overview of all of the features here. 10 position single point height adjustment. We're going to go from 1 inch to 4 inches on our cutting heights. It's got LED headlight, 30-inch durable polypropylene deck, and that's going to be a big difference in the characteristics here, differentiating Ryobis and Toros. Toro has the stamped steel deck. Pretty much everything the gas mower has, except for the power unit on the Toro. But Ryobi's going with the polypropylene, so kind of a plasticky feeling deck here. Cross-cut multi-blade system for superior cutting performance. Self-propelled rear wheel drive. 11-inch high wheel design, so it's got really tall wheels on it. Easy lift single motion bag removal. One-touch folding handles for compact vertical storage. External fuel gauge, so it's going to tell you battery life because it doesn't take gas. And blade change indicator, so it's going to tell you when you need to change or sharpen your blades. That's interesting technology there. I would be curious to learn more about how they're calculating that, whether it's on how many hours. It has to be off of usage hours. Hassle-free push-button start. The Smart Trek integrated mulch plug, and it's compatible with all 80-volt batteries. 80-volt horsepower technology delivers gas performance. Very interesting here. So lots of things that I'm curious to learn about. We've got some staged photos here. I wonder how much of these are kind of photoshopped, but you can kind of get an idea of what it looks like. This is a good picture right here. Runtime up to 1 acre on a single charge. That's 43,560 square feet for those of you keeping score. This picture here, you can kind of see how wide this is and how big this is. I feel like this is bigger than the Time Master. It's definitely beefy. Very beefy for what it is. So you get an up close shot here. You can really see the frames on both sides for that single point height adjustment. Definitely got the headlights in focus there. Kind of looking on the back side, it looks like a decent sized bag, which is nice. Got a couple pictures straight on here. Pretty good showing. The last picture shows the undercarriage, and you can see they've got the blades. This is interesting. The Time Master's blades, it runs a dual blade system, and they are side by side. And these blades here on the Ryobi are Cross-cut blades, so that each set of blades has two blades in kind of a overlapping pattern. So there's 4 blades in total, and the 2 blade housings are offset, so they kind of go at a diagonal angle here, which I think is kind of an interesting design choice. Definitely going to play into cut quality here. I'm curious to see the blades themselves, and typically Ryobi blades are thinner as far as the heftiness of the steel. They have a lot more bend in them than traditional lawnmower blades. They're usually smaller. So I'll be curious to see what these look like up close in real life, and not just on an image here. So that's pretty interesting. Let's get out of here and read a little bit and get more into the features and see what else we can learn here. It says the Ryobi 80-volt HP brushless 30-inch Whisper Series crosscut lawnmower, that's a mouthful, utilizes 80-volt HP technology to deliver a more efficient cutting experience than gas with the ease of Ryobi 80-volt battery power. The 80-volt HP technology delivers 35% more power for gas performance, making this new 30-inch lawnmower more powerful than a 223cc gas mower. As part of the Whisper series, Ryobi's quietest lineup of products, this mower is 70% quieter than a gas mower. I'd love to put that to the test. With a simple push-button start, users can tackle up to 1 acre with up to 90 minutes of runtime on the included Ryobi 80-volt 10-amp-hour lithium battery. So that's interesting. So we have one battery, one 80-volt 10-amp-hour battery. They're saying 90 minutes of runtime. And if I recall, Toro's coming out with 2 10-amp-hour batteries, and I think that they were saying like just over an hour of runtime. So kind of an interesting difference there. It looks like this might get a pretty significant more runtime. The external fuel gauge, I don't know why they're calling it a fuel gauge. Why not just call it a charge indicator or something? But a fuel, people don't think of fuel when they talk about Ryobi products. So to call it a fuel gauge, that's weird. The external fuel gauge shows the remaining battery life left while mowing, and when it is time to recharge, the included 80-volt hypercharger can recharge the battery in less than an hour. That's not bad. This mower is part of the Ryobi 80-volt HP brushless family of cordless products. When the job is complete, Easy Lift bag removal makes emptying grass clippings quick and convenient. One-touch folding handles allow this mower to be stored easily out of the way in the garage or shed between mowing sessions. An 11-inch high wheel design and high-intensity LED headlights, combined with Whisper Series engineering, allow users to mow anytime from dusk to dawn. This mower is backed by a 5-year manufacturer warranty. And then they've got some highlighted features here. Again, they're really leaning into this. More power than a 223cc gas mower. Provided by the brushless motor combined with 80-volt HP technology and the 80-volt 10-amp-hour battery. Whisper Series and Smart Trek, 70% quieter, adaptive variable speed. That will be interesting to play around with. Adaptive variable speed. That sounds a lot like personal pace, and I'd like to see how it compares. Crosscut multi-blade system, superior cutting performance, integrated mulch plug. I don't care what brand you are, I think the integrated mulch plug is just a no-brainer. We shouldn't have a separate mulch plug that we have to keep track of. There's enough things in my life that I need to keep track of. I don't need a mulch plug that I have to worry about losing. 10 position single point height adjustment. Again, we're going from 1 inch to 4 inches. High intensity LED light. And this is what we get. We get the mower, we get the battery, and we get the charger. And let's see if there's anything else in here. This thing weighs 117 pounds. That's heavy. How much does a Time Master weigh? I have to check. 117 pounds seems really, really heavy. I've got to look at this really quick. We've got to see how much the Time Master weighs. So this is going to be a very impromptu, off-script Google search to see what the Toro Time Master weighs. Okay. Toro Time Master from Toro's website, approximately 144 pounds. So I sit corrected here. So I thought it weighed less than that. I can pick up the Time Master for the most part. It doesn't seem that heavy to me. Maybe I don't know my own strength. Okay. So Time Master, 144 pounds. Ryobi, 117 pounds. 80 volts. 10 amp hours. 5-year warranty. And that's pretty much it. Then we're down into the bottom of the website. So that's what we know. Pretty exciting stuff. I am very anxious to get my hands on this and learn as much as I can about it. I think battery lawnmowers have come quite a long way in the last few years, and they really are starting to compete with gas power, and I know it's only going to get better. I am more interested in how these compare to each other in the battery category between the different brands, and I'm interested in how they compare against gas. I don't think that batteries are better for the environment, personally. I do like that they're less maintenance, and I know that's a big selling point for a lot of people. Talking to my brother-in-law last year when he got his super recycler, one of his big things was he was very adamant about getting a battery lawnmower just because he didn't want to deal with all the maintenance associated with the gas mower. So I can totally get on board with the less maintenance, but better for the environment, I'm not there. That's going to take a lot more convincing for me to get there. So just as a quick side note, when I talk about my excitement for these battery tools, it's more the excitement of learning about them and seeing how they match up against what they're intended to replace. So that's where my excitement is. That's what I'm looking forward to. Those are the answers that I want to get. And I'm really excited about this Ryobi mower. I think it's a long time coming that we have something that's competing with Toro's Time Master. And I think this is going to be the first lawnmower to put up a fight and to actually be comparable. And I'm excited to hopefully try it out this season. I think that bringing in more mowers like this, stuff like this is going to drive more competition as more brands get into this space. And as more competition comes to market, that's going to benefit us as the consumers the most, as far as seeing the prices come down. And that's ultimately what we really want, right? We want great products at affordable prices. last thing that I want to share with you for this episode, I've got some big news this year. I have started my own lawn service business locally. A lot has happened over the last 9 months or so. I've made a pretty big career change as far as the day job goes. And an opportunity to start my own lawn care business was made available. And I'm taking advantage of it. And I'm just going to go for it. I told myself I wasn't going to have any regrets of not giving it a shot. And that's what I'm going to do. I've had a lot of people over the last couple of years especially say that I should start my own business and do my own thing and work for myself. And I've always had that thought in the back of my mind. And, part of me just wanted to go for it and just see what happens. And I just didn't, the timing wasn't right. And over the last few months, the timing has felt right. I feel like there's an opening in the opportunity there, and we're going to see what happens. So it's been quite busy here getting things underway. I'm very excited. I'm very overwhelmed. I'm very anxious to get started. I have learned a ton over the last few months as I've navigated all of the hoops that you need to jump through to organize a business and to become a licensed applicator. I've already started signing up customers for the season. Needless to say, I've been pretty busy. All of that going on behind the scenes on top of producing content, recording podcasts, sending emails. I'm working on a new ebook, a new free ebook that's going to be made available here pretty soon. It's been a busy off season, and it's going to continue into the lawn season as well. I can't wait. I really just can't wait. It's going to just be a really busy year. I've got a little bit of momentum going right now, and I plan on just building on that and doing everything that I can to establish a nice, solid customer base. So I do plan to put out some content around all of this. It's very much a part of my story, and I want to share it. And I know that there's some of you out there that are considering starting your own side business or have already started a side business. And I just want to be clear that the content that I produce about my business isn't going to replace any future DIY content. I have a lot of content planned for the channel for DIYers. I'm still a DIYer, and my channel will still continue to be primarily content for the DIYer. I have a lot of personal beliefs that I'm bringing with me into the business, and that DIY perspective I think is going to be really helpful when it comes to educating my customers and working with them to make sure that they have a successful season and have a great looking lawn. So very, very excited about that. So lots of content to come this year. I am going to have a few videos here and there about my business, kind of sharing what I'm doing and what I'm learning. We'll talk about all the basic stuff. There's lots to talk about. If there's anything specific that you're curious about or want to know about my business, please feel free to hit me up, shoot me an email, reach out on social media. I want to make sure that the content that I do produce is going to be valuable and helpful. So look forward to more information and content around that soon. A huge thank you to not only everybody that has encouraged me to do this, whether that be people online or neighbors, friends, family members. I also want to thank several companies who are already on board with me here and are going to be contributing towards my business strategy. There have been several products and companies that I've worked with in the past, on my own lawn that I just can't imagine not bringing into my business strategies too. So I just want to talk about a couple of those really quick. Pro-Pete fertilizer. I've started working with them. They were one of the first companies I reached out to. I started working with Pro-Pete probably 3 or 4 years ago. They are not far away from me. They're just a few hours to the north. Great people, great small business, fantastic product. They work primarily with golf and with professionals or applicators, businesses, and they over the last few years have been navigating the DIY space as well. And they're available at Home Depot. You can order from Home Depot, and they just have great stuff. And they offer different grades of fertilizers, which I think is cool. They have the standard homeowner grade, and then they have golf course grades. So they have greens grade, which is a very small prill size, and they also have an ultra greens grade, which I learned about when I ran into John, the owner of Pro-Pete, at the Equip, and we were catching up and chatting, and he told me about the ultra greens grade because I told him about my putting green, and he sent out a bag of the ultra greens grade to try. So I'm going to be trying that this year on the putting green. And as far as my customers are concerned, they are getting greens grade fertilizer for their applications. Not that they'll care, but for me as the applicator, I'm going to care. And if you haven't spread a greens grade fertilizer before, you have to try it because it just comes out of the spreader much smoother, much more consistent. And that on top of the homogeneous blend that Pro-Pete uses in their prills, everything is homogenized into the prill, and then the prill is coated in peat moss, which is just awesome. So I've got about 20 bags, which is about half of a pallet, sitting in my shed right now. And as you can imagine, when you walk into my shed, it smells fantastic. And like I said, they sent out a bag of the Ultra Greens grade. Going to try that on the putting green. So really looking forward to that. It's crazy how small these prills are on that Ultra Greens grade. So keep an eye out for that video, which will be coming up sometime early this year. Each of my customers are also going to get soil tested. That's going to be the first thing I do for every lawn that I service. I'm going to soil test them. I want to know what's going on. I don't care if they're in the same neighborhood. A lot of the houses around me here are new builds, and I remember watching these subdivisions go in. A lot of fill dirt was brought in from who knows where, so everybody's soil is going to be probably a little different. So just to kind of put my mind at ease, I want to know what's going on in the soil. I want to make sure that the products that I'm choosing to apply to my customers are the right ones and are products that their soil actually needs so that they get the most benefit out of my services. I'm going to be using My Soil test kits. The company My Soil, they're not my test kits. The company's called My Soil. Everybody's that's familiar with most soil tests, you've probably heard of My Soil. They are going to be a big help to me. They have Pro Packs, so instead of getting the typical boxes with the individual test kit, they have Pro Packs available, and I'll be talking more about those in a bit here. Makes it easier if you're, soil testing multiple customers. They can send out multiple kits and return envelopes. So really anxious to get their products involved. and to start finding out what's going on with my customers and getting a jump start on that. Not going to be long before I start pulling soil samples. Spiker spreaders. I've been using spiker spreaders for several years as well. They are going to get much more use going forward than they have here. Rather than just a few times a year, they're going to be used quite a few times a year. So really going to be using those and enjoying those. Spiker makes a great product. They are commercial grade products, and I expect them to work as well as they have been and to last a long time. Flowzone backpack sprayer. I'm definitely going to be using that. They're releasing an updated version of one of their sprayers this year, by the way. So probably going to be putting some content together around that. Want to compare it to previous models and see how it goes. But we'll definitely be applying liquid products with Flowzone backpack sprayer for sure. Cujo shoes. Been wearing Cujos for the last year or two now, and going to keep wearing them. They're super comfy. Toro equipment, of course. To be honest, I don't have any mowing clients yet. I have several clients lined up, like I said, for the season. None of them are mowing, and I actually prefer it that way. So all of the customers that I've signed up so far are fertilizer, weed control, and insect control. So that is my primary focus for right now as far as signing people up. I want to do fertilizer and weed control, not really pushing the mowing. If they ask about it, then I'll include it in my estimate, but want to just primarily focus on applications. But yes, any mowing that I'm going to be doing, I will be using a Toro lawnmower, which is always exciting for me. Speaking of Toro, I'm also familiarizing myself with their Horizon 360 app. It's been a huge help for me when I put my estimates together. They have a lawn measuring tool in there that you can really fine tune your lines in there and measure out and get a really accurate measurement so that you can know how much money to charge. There's a lot that app can do. It's helpful for startup businesses like me, but it's also helpful for larger companies that are running multiple crews and lots of equipment. You can manage all of that through the Horizon 360 app. So I've got so much more to share with you guys about this business. It's taking a big chunk of my time. It's gotten me really excited about getting the season started. I'm going pretty hard on marketing over here right now, especially once this storm gets through and all the snow melts. Then I'm going to be making a really big push to sign up as many people as I can. I'm focusing on my general area right now, all the neighborhoods that surround mine. I want to stay as close to home as possible and make myself a nice dense route to get started. So that's the idea. I've got some big goals, and I hope that you'll follow along as I share this new chapter in addition to my story. So pretty exciting times. That's going to go ahead and wrap up this episode of the show. Thank you so much for listening. Be sure to check out all the information in the episode description and follow me on all of your favorite social media platforms. If you haven't already subscribed to this show, please consider subscribing. Thanks again for listening. Until next time, see ya.